So today we are looking at literature learning targets. We're focusing in on essential question number 4. What is literary text really about? 5. How does interaction with text provoke thinking and response? And 6. How does what readers read influence how they should read it? As we look at these essential questions, we are going to be participating in a close reading of another section from Rogue Wave. This section is found on page 7 and 8. With close reading, as we've talked about before, it's focusing specifically on finding answers to key things as you read the text 3 different times. The first thing you focus in on is what the text says. The second thing we focus in on is how the text says it. And the third thing we focus in on is why the text matters. As we do this activity, we're going to focus on 2 specific learning targets. That's I can determine a central idea of the text by providing an objective summary, as well as I can determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in text, including figurative language and connotative meanings, and analyze word choice on meaning and tone. As we look at this section, we are going to be focusing on, as I just said, summary of the text. Keep in mind, as before, as you create an objective summary of the text, we are looking at the basics of plot, and even within a paragraph, our summary of what's happening in that paragraph needs to first and foremost focus on the conflict of the narrative, because in literary writing, all writing, short story, novel, I don't care what it is, it focuses around a conflict. So that's the first target we're focusing on. And as we get into the first phase, you're going to see how that target is coming into play. In the first initial reading, you need to read over the section, highlight a key sentence that helps you understand what's happening in the paragraph, margin note that main idea, and in your comment or to answer the question, you would provide your summary of the paragraph there. It answers the question, what's happening in the paragraph? That's the first phase and the first reading of the paragraph, so make sure that you do that. As we get into phase 2, or the second reading of the paragraph, we are getting more focused, more honed in to a new learning target, in fact. And that learning target is learning target number 13. To distinguish among the connotations or the associations of words with similar denotations. In basic words, that means that you're able to tell apart words that have a similar dictionary definition by their connotations. So although we have a lot of different words that have similar dictionary definitions, the connotation of the word or the idea or feeling associated with the word is different. That's looking at the word kid or brat. Kid and brat both are words that we associate with young people, but the word kid has a very different connotation to it than the word brat. The connotation of brat is not necessarily positive, whereas kid does not have a positive or negative connotation to it. Oftentimes when you see this learning target mentioned in test questions, you're going to see it asking, what does the use of the word suggest? What feeling does the word suggest? So they like to use this word suggest when asking about connotations. So what does the use of the word suggest? What feeling does the word suggest? That brings into conversation the idea of what tone means versus what mood means. Both tone and mood are associated with connotation. Tone is the author's attitude. So it describes the writing. The writing could have a positive, a negative, or a neutral tone. So it could be positive, negative, or neutral, but that's the author's attitude that you hear coming off the page of the text. Whereas mood is the feeling the reader gets about the atmosphere of the story. So this is the reader's emotions as they are reading the story. The atmosphere of the story gives the reader specific feelings or emotions. That's mood. So connotations, or the association of the feeling associated with the word, can tell us a little bit about the author's attitude in the writing, but it also can tell us a little bit about, it can make you feel a certain way as you're reading it. So that's what we're going to be looking at with phase 2. So if we look in phase 2 of the reading, it says to reread the entire section of Rogue Wave, focus on highlighting words in the paragraph that are excellent words chosen by the author. So I would like to see you highlight a minimum of 2 to 3 words. And then the margin note, I want you to explain why you like the word and thought the author made a great choice in using it. Okay, so we're looking at specific words that you think were excellent words chosen by the author, but as a bonus, if you can spot a specific figurative language element used by the author in this piece, feel free to add that too. But make sure, even if you find a figurative language element used by the author in that section, make sure you have 2 to 3 words, specific one words that you think were great choices that the author used within that paragraph, and explain why you like that choice. For your question response, you're going to talk about how did the author's choice of words or figurative language impact your mood, impact you as the reader. So what feelings or mood do the words and the figurative, and if you found that figurative language element, what mood does the figurative language suggest? How does the author feel about the ocean? So this is a 3-part question. First part, how did the author's choice of those words you highlight impact the mood of the piece? What feeling did it give the piece? What suggestion did it give the piece? What feelings do the words and or figurative language suggest? So what mood, what feelings does the piece suggest based on the words that you thought were great choices? Does it give a positive mood, a negative mood? If you had to pick an adjective to describe that mood, what would that word be? What would you use as an adjective to describe the mood that the piece gives you because of the words used, because of their connotation, the feeling associated with those words? And lastly, how does the author feel? What does it sound like they feel? What is their tone about the ocean in this section? Because they do have a clear tone. Is it positive about the ocean, negative about the ocean, or is their tone neutral about the ocean? And see if you can think of an emotion word that would describe that sound coming off the page for their tone towards the ocean. And make sure you put your answer down there. And then for our third and final phase of the text, we are focusing in on learning target number 3 and 4. 3 being to determine a theme and to analyze how that theme develops. So remember, the theme is the hidden message or meaning that the written work gives to all readers. All readers could relate to that meaning or message. And 4 is to look closely. We're looking closely at the paragraph. We're looking at the word choice used in this particular paragraph to decide how those words help to show that hidden message, that implied message throughout the paragraph of the piece. So the question reads, reread the entire section for a third and final time. Focus on the theme or message that kind of comes into play using the words chosen by the author. So decide, some of these words chosen by the author, what message or theme might they connect to? You have nothing to highlight for this third phase reading, but I do want you to answer and discuss this question as a group. What is the theme or message the reader can take away from this section, specifically about nature in the ocean? So when we talked in the last phase about the mood and the tone given from the words that you thought were great choices by the author, what is, if you had to put into words, their message about nature, about the ocean? Again, make sure that whatever you thought the mood was, the tone was of the word choice by the author, make sure that that also connects and you keep that same mood, keep that same tone. So if it's if you felt good in a positive way, then you should have a theme that would make you feel good. If you felt negatively in a negative mood from reading that paragraph, then you need to think of a negative way to word the theme. If you felt the author sounded positive, then you need to keep that positive tone as well in your writing of your message. If you felt the author sounded negative, then you need to keep that same negative thing. Or if you felt the author was more neutral, then make it neutral. But I want your theme to connect and keep that same mood or tone that you found to be true within those words that you picked as being great words that the author used. So go ahead and start reading your first phase as you work on these specific learning targets.